Helen here with Eyes on the Game. I'm being joined by the legendary trainer in Kevin Barry.
God, I love you, Helen.
Always great to see you. I feel like, okay, so I just saw you, a few weeks ago. I told Joe, I was like, you know what? I practically live here now, right?
You're one of our favorites. We love it. We love inviting you to the gym.
Thank
Never
you.
a dull moment, and always a great interview. And that's why even today, when I had my friends here from New Zealand and our promoter David Higgins, and I wanted to put Dave in front of you because I knew that you were the right person to interview.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. But okay, let's cut to the chase because so obviously the fight right around the corner. When I came in here last, it was the beginning of training camp. Now it's towards the end before you guys are about to go out of town soon. So can you kind of give us an update how training camp went?
Look, it's been a good camp. We've ticked all the boxes. This has been a very serious, very important camp for us. So we're coming off back-to-back losses, and Joe's career is on the line in this fight. So, we've prepared very, very well. Joe's prepared very well. A lot of hard work has gone into this camp, and I'm really liking the end results. I said at the beginning of camp that this, for us, was about strength and power, and I think at the moment we're seeing a much stronger, much more powerful Joseph Parker.
Now, I spoke to David Higgins, and I also asked Joe about this too, because he said in some ways that this fight is kind of a win-loss situation because of Alexander Flores. He doesn't really have much of a name, and Joseph Parker has the name. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, Alexander's a very dangerous opponent for us for the simple fact he's 17-1. Yeah. He hasn't had the breaks that Joseph has had. He hasn't had the support of a good promotional team that Joseph Parker has had. And, this is his opportunity to step into big-time boxing. And he's waited his whole career for it, so which makes him a very, very dangerous opponent, and an opponent that we've prepared very hard for.
Yeah, now he was in here for his media day. He was very confident, and his past 3 fights hasn't gone out of the second round. I told Joe that as well. But he did say that he doesn't see his fight with Joe going the distance, even though he's never been in a 10-round fight, and his fights have never gone the distance. So what are your thoughts?
Well, look, I applaud Flores for his confidence. But, for him to say something like that, he's aiming to do what Anthony Joshua couldn't do, what Dillian White couldn't do, what Andy Ruiz couldn't do, what Carlos Takam couldn't do, what Alexander Dimitrenko couldn't do. Joseph has fought a lot of elite world-class fighters, and they haven't done the damage on him. So for him to come out and think that he is going to be the first one to do it, very ambitious. But as I said before, I applaud his confidence.
Now, what do you think about, him being able to spar with Dominic Brazil and others in preparation for this fight?
Well, look, everyone that fights Joe comes in their best shape, and that's something that we learned very, very early. And as we moved up the ranks, we brought people in from countries all around the world, and often their trainers or their promoters will say that was their best performance. This is the best shape they've ever been in, because, that for me gives Joe a lot of respect, because they know when they're getting in the ring with an elite fighter like Joseph Parker, they have to prepare properly. And him sparring with Dominic Brazil, that's very good of him. That's clever of him. And the only thing is Brazil's 6'8", a little slow. Joe Parker's 6'4" and very fast. I think he's already also done some rounds with Andy Ruiz, an old sparring mate of ours. Andy's another very elite fighter, but Andy is 6 foot, 5'11". Joseph Parker's 6'4". So he'll prepare himself as best as he can.
But for you guys, though, how have you been preparing Joe? Anyone in particular that you brought in?
We brought in sparring partners that we believed were very similar to Flores. Flores is a good body puncher. He's a guy who likes to throw his right hand. He'll come forward. He's a courageous guy, but this is a big step up in class for him. And it's also a dangerous fight for us because, we're in a position where Joe's fighting for his career, coming off back-to-back losses. And I think that's what makes this an exciting, important fight, that both guys have a lot at stake in this fight.
Now, what weaknesses do you see in Alexander Flores' style?
Oh, look, Alexander's he's a decent fighter. He turned professional just before Joe. I watched a lot of his early fights, and I was talking to his trainer Michael Love today, and at one stage we were looking to bring him in as a sparring partner early in Joe's career, but it didn't quite happen. I'm familiar with his style, and there's dozens of fights and sparring sessions of Joseph Parker on the internet, so he's very familiar with what Joe does. We've put a game plan in place, like they'll have a game plan that we believe will best serve us in this fight against Flores.
And he is older than Joe, but I believe he did make a comment to media saying that, because Joe has already accomplished a lot and been the champion, even though he's younger, but it's almost like he's past his prime. What are your thoughts?
Well, Joe's been in boxing 6 years. And Joe is 26 years old. Joe, this year, I believe, is starting to grow into his man body. We have a lot of boxing ahead of us. Joe is not by any means the finished product, and the two fights that we lost this year are two huge learning fights, and fights that have made him a much better fighter, a much more mature fighter, and I think all that will be shown on December 15.
And lastly, for all the fans that will either be watching it on TV or be there in the audience, what can they expect from Joseph Parker?
Look, I think you'll see a very explosive Joseph Parker, somebody who's going to be throwing punches with bad intentions. This is a fight that we want to make a statement, and he's going to be hitting Alexander Flores very hard and very often.